Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulullah. Welcome to the second episode of Marriage or Zawaj, Jurisprudence, where I'll be talking about the fiqh of Zawaj. So I'll be talking about how can we, from the Quran and Sunnah, will be looking for a spouse and try to be to find the right spouse for us, the perfect partner, have inshallah the perfect life, and um, if things didn't work, how to have inshallah also the perfect exit. Today, I'll be catching up on a bit of points from the previous session, and then I'll be talking about the acceptable halal channels to find the future spouse, inshallah, and also covering questions to ask the potential spouse to assess the compatibility as a Muslim, inshallah. And I have with me in the studio live Lara Abu Alwan. And Lara, she's a Muslim girl who's from Lebanese heritage, which I knew her since she was a kid. I'm not gonna say how old I am, 52. But I knew her since she was a kid, and now, mashallah, she's a growing young woman who is, alhamdulillah, she's adhering to the Islam and Sunnah and trying her best to be the best Muslim she can be, inshallah. But first, and I've already put in the already put in the already put live the link. So if you want to join us, inshallah, you can join us. I'll put it also on the comments, inshallah, that if you want to join us, you can use this link. You can join me in the um, studio, so you can have, inshallah, a conversation with me. I already have Nabila and Sumak, inshallah. So, inshallah, we'll be also talking and discussing this matters. But you already have now in the stream the link, inshallah, to talk and join us in the studio. So first and foremost, just to before we start talking about with my guests about the inshallah topic today, just to review what was from the last episode. First and foremost, whenever you want to do anything, whenever you want to go and any achievement that you're looking to do, what you need to look to do first is to have the intentions. So we always seek the Allah's pleasement and guidance as well. When you want to start looking for marriage, you have to be ready to fulfill your responsibilities. So the financial is only one aspect of it, but also you need to be also providing physically. So you have القدرة من استطاع منكم الباءة فليتزوج. And الباءة, Allah Subhanahu wa Taala says, when if you can, then get married within your means. So physically, you have to provide financially. You have to have the physical uh, ability, and also emotionally, because some people don't have the emotional intelligence or maturity to actually be in partnership, to be in marriage with someone. So you have to work on these skills and develop them, inshallah, to acceptable level. And that will be with the guidance of your family, and you can seek courses and you can seek self-development like you do with anything else. You'll always have to follow the Quran and Sunnah. So seek always to adhere to the Sunnah and practice of marriages and how we can to seek the marriage. Try to understand it from the Sirah of Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, because he's still our role model. So you'd have to understand how he was a husband, how he was a good husband, inshallah, and this will be our role model. And we have to take it in a whole, because sometimes people will take just one hadith and they will stop there, and it have to be taken in context. So you have to have the understanding of the marriage from the seerah to be able to develop yourself and then work on the areas that need to be developing. Maintain modesty and chastity at all times, because لا يطلب الحلال بالحرام. So you cannot seek the halal of Allah Azza wa Jal by actually doing the haram thing. So you have to be always adhering to halal. In the khutbah today of the Taraweeh, I did say to the followers, my fellow worshippers, that whenever you have the temptation, whenever you have that fork road, you have to follow the Quran and Sunnah. Don't look for the temptations. Temptations is what got our father Adam out of heaven. Don't surrender to temptation, no matter how strong they are, and follow the Quran and Sunnah. If you follow that, Allah Azza wa Jalla will give you and reward you with what beyond your imagination. So don't ever think that you can seek the halal by taking the haram. So somebody who says, I'm only looking for halal, but then they go about in the haram way. No, don't ever. If you did so, and sometimes people do, straight away seek redemption, make tawbah, and correct yourself, and go back to the right way, inshallah. And Allah Azza wa Jalla will accept, bi'idhnillah. Also, try to have just clear communications. There'll be this is just the point so far that from last session, and today we'll be, as I said, we'll be talking about how we can, what the acceptable halal channels to find the future spouse. In the studio, alhamdulillah, in the studio, I have with me Lara Abu Alwan, Sumak, Nabila, and Wala Ahmed, and I'll be bring them in as guests and talk to see from their what they think what would be the halal sessions, halal channels, inshallah. We have with me Lara.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa barakatuh. We have Nabila, and I have also Wala Ahmed. So start with Lara. Lara, can you introduce yourself, please?
My name is Lara Balwen. I've known, I'm going to call you Ammu. I've known Imam for most of my life, I believe. And I love the way that you explain things and your insight. I'm currently 24. I'm turning 25 in 2 days, inshallah. And I
MashaAllah.
think I've reached an age where I'm open to marriage and I'm open to understanding how a marriage should actually be according to the Quran and Sunnah, because we
Mm-hmm.
grow up to see marriage from different perspectives.
Yes.
And then eventually we reach an age and we start to understand that marriage is not just, oh, let's check on a wedding dress and move in together. No, it's much bigger than that. There's an ultimate goal of getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so, as you said, we should seek the halal way towards it and the halal way during it.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's really good introduction about you. Nabila, will you introduce yourself, please?
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I'm Nabila. I'm actually Laura's friend. She told
Oh,
me to
hello.
join this great live, so I did join it. Inshallah, I'm excited to learn some valuable advice. There's always opportunity for growth, subhanallah. And in Islam, we have all the answers and the anecdotes. So, inshallah, may Allah grant us the spouses that are the coolness of our eyes and our
Allahumma ameen.
offspring. Ameen.
Ameen. Okay, Wala Ahmed, can you give us a bit of introduction about yourself?
Assalamu alaikum. I'm Wala El Saleh, or Wala Ahmed. I am about 37 years old. I got a divorce recently, and I'm here just to learn from our previous mistakes in case I go through a second marriage experience. I'm a big fan of your speeches and lectures, so I really like the way you explain Islam from a modern society perspective, especially that we are here and almost all of us are immigrants. So I really appreciate having someone like you, Imam Richard. Thank you very much.
Alhamdulillah, Jazakallah khair. Okay, so the thing I'm gonna talk about now. So we have Lara and Nabila. I know Lara is she's still single. Nabila, are you single? Are you divorced? Are you widow? What?
Actually, I'm in the process of introducing my friend. So he's already spoken to my father.
Okay.
So it's been going so well, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
So I just joined because I heard very great things about you, and I thought perhaps, even though I might not be single yet, inshallah, everything goes successful. But I think it's always good for me to learn something,
Alhamdulillah.
to take that wisdom with me, inshallah.
Inshallah. We will be covering tonight this specifically this phase that you are in, which is talking with the future spouse, what to look for and what to think about. I know my wife, she's logged in, but somehow she's not connected. Sue, for people who might not know, I'm married to a Christian lady. Her name is Suzanne McLeod, but somehow she can't log in. But anyway, so we'll continue. So we have Nabila who's seeking, she's in the process of, inshallah, the future spouse, hopefully, inshallah, is getting introduced to the father. And Wala who's divorced. So alhamdulillah, subhanallah, we've got this nice mix. If I can ask, start with Nabila, since you are all in the process, what do you think is the acceptable channels Islamically? So what are the halal channels to seek a spouse?
Absolutely.
From a woman perspective.
I think, okay, so subhanallah, Islam, it shouldn't be difficult. I think it's important to get to know the person, but there's barriers, there's limitations,
Hmm.
especially in this day and age where it's very materialistic. People are thinking about they put other traits as a priority. For me, as I grow older, I'm 31 years old. I think the most important thing is someone who is God fearing, a Muslim as well too, is a priority, and character traits. And then of course falling into understanding the role as a husband and so on, just for success in the future.
So, what are the channels? So, what do you think that in terms of channels
Mhm.
to seek a spouse? Do you go online, for example, on the
Oh,
Muslim websites, or uh,
absolutely.
yes, locally? What do you think?
Okay, sorry, I didn't understand the question
It's okay.
properly. I apologize. I
That's
think
okay.
we're in a day of age that people are also doing online, but I've seen success through friends, family members that introduce other people to one another. I've even also heard success stories through online as well too. You just have to be very smart when selecting someone, especially from online. Always do your research, always have, a friend, speak to their friends, their family, so you get a better idea of what the individual is like and so on. But I guess nowadays, now you have these Islamic dating sites, or matchmaking sites like Musmatch, Salams, and everything. It's the day and age. But I think it's really important just to be, mindful. But, I've seen success from there. So it really depends. It could be friends, family, from the mosque, or even online. Oh, I can't hear you. I think the mic's off. Oh, I still cannot. Oh, okay, now we can hear you.
I'm saying you're making my job today really easy. I wish if I
Oh,
had you in the first episode as well. Thank you so much.
amazing.
If I can make just one comment about the barriers, I get really picky about words because this is how I learned from the Quran to be really precise with words. So
Mhm.
I'm happy when you said restrictions, um, and I would say, um, but I wouldn't say barriers because the barriers then you would think about how can I come over the barrier.
Mm.
It is restrictions, and I've had a talk just 2 weeks ago, and I was explaining about how to be how to stay positive. And one of the things about staying positive, people like to have the sense of a freedom. The more freedom you feel, the more positive you are. So, for example, if you're free of diseases, you're happy with your health, free of lack of funds, so you have a lot of funds at your disposal to do whatever you want. So, and if you can do whatever you want without caring about laws, restrictions, so the more freedom you have, the more um, positive and happy, supposedly, you would feel because nobody's gonna question you. And the thing is, this is important to understand that those who are the atheists, for example, or people who are a bit don't like the religion, because for the same reason that they say it's restricting our movement, our life, our understanding how life should be, and they go the opposite way. So, for example, even sometimes they challenge the hijab and says, "I don't want to wear the hijab because it's restricting me. It's a barrier. I don't like it." The thing is, the fact that you make a choice, no matter what choice that is, even if you think that you have total freedom of doing so, you're choosing not to do the opposite. So whatever direction you take, you have not take the opposite direction. And there's a saying says, "Good girls goes to heaven, bad girls goes everywhere." And in the West, they say it in a way that yes, the bad girls can go everywhere, so they enjoy the life, yes, but they will not go to heaven unless they make redemption. And even if they go make redemption, it will not be the same level of people who were donating their life, dedicating their life for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal. So I love the word, if you like, restrictions, because then I'm restricting myself. I've chose my path, and with that, it comes certain commitments and certain responsibilities that I have to take in. If I choose to work in a company or I choose a certain profession, I've always committing to a certain values and set that I'm going to be working within and living within. And with that, obviously, the Islam is not just a faith; it's a religion. So it's everything about life that we always consider how it is going to be when in the eyes of Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and in the eyes of Allah Azza wa Jal, first and foremost. That's why I said earlier it's all to have the clear intentions. But I love also what you mentioned about the channels. So local communities, so our family members, the friends of friends, the circles that we go through, and that's very typical. Back in the days when there was no website, I always say, "Oh, he married, the neighbor's daughter," because this is what he can look for. And now we can look further afield because of the social media, and that in itself had some risks associated with. But there's some really good stories there, and I like what you said. So, like you said, the website, but proceed with a bit of care, with a bit of cautious. Be cautious because you need to see more of the person, and the distance can sometimes make you don't see details properly. Proceed, but with care. So, and to ask the friends and the spouses, absolutely, absolutely. I did mention the 3 filters in the first episode when I talked about when you want to find a spouse, Allah Azza wa Jal have made the 3 filters for that. So, you know how it says in the West, the princess will have to kiss a few frogs before she find her prince. In Islam, obviously, we don't allow the unhalal kissing, so it have to be halal. And when Allah Azza wa Jal have put these filters, it's protecting the women hearts and feelings from being damaged by going through bad experience over and over and over, which affect then her ability just to enjoy life afterward. Otherwise, she's going to be, because she had those deep wounds, if you like, then she go into the marriage eventually with the luggages. So the filters that are in place is this, whatever the way that happened, that a woman would know the person. So it could be through work, it could be through study, it could be through a friend of a friend, whatever it was, or online, whatever it was, will have to seek knowledge about that person, but also through the eyes of experts. So we got the father, inshallah, who is a man who would know what two traits look into a man. So he can ask about that person. He would see him. And I'm talking about the standard. I'm not talking about skewed parents or somebody who's always got issues. This is different than conversation. So the parents, so the father would look into the man background and the context and how he deals with the working. Is he a good earner? Does he have good reputation? How he's punctual with his work dealings, etc. The mother would look into the person with the family side, with the women's side. How is he with the spouse, with his maharim? How's he with his mother? How's he with his sister? How's he with his cousins? Is he flirting? Is he dominant? Is he bossy? Is he generous? Is he caring, etc.? And obviously, nobody will be 100% perfect, so there'll be then pros and cons that look into it. Once he passed these 2 filters, then we can say, there we go, fine daughter. Let's see if you're gonna be happy with this person or not. What happens these days is usually the girl will try to make this assessment before she even introduced him to the family. And I know culturally sometimes that's acceptable. Personally, I don't feel it is a good thing. It needs to be through formally assessed. And I understand sometimes the family, they brought up the children in a way they're actually intimidated. If they told the parents that there's somebody who's interested, there'll be a bit of like alarm status. Nu'man Khan have spoke about this. Sometimes a girl go back to the parents and says, I've got a colleague at work who's interested in getting married to me, and subhanallah, there'll be a big revolution and there'll be great madness, which is completely skewed and not right. So we're talking about how it should be, and if not happening this way in this life, it's in our certain cultures, we have to work within that to see what's the best. But my advice always is to go through these 2 filters. And for example, Zainab, the daughter of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, she married at the age of 10, and that's already been approved. Her 2 sisters, Ruqayya and Kulthum, get married even before at the same time, and they were younger than her. So when she wanted to get married, when she got married, she was proposed to by her cousin, Ibn al-Khala, Abu al-As ibn al-Rabi', and the age difference was big as well. But then he mentioned it to his mother, to his Khala, Khadija. Khadija already know him, Prophet know him, so they talked together and said, okay, we think he's an appropriate person, but let's ask Zainab, would you accept him as a husband? And obviously she said yes, and they married, and they have very, very lovely love story. So this is what I see guidance from. Um, so you already mentioned these things, and mashallah, tabarakallah, as I said, you made my life really easier, although I went on. I hope I've benefited you. Um, let's say, Lara, do you have anything to add on this channels, how to seek a husband, a spouse?
I think what Nabila said was quite reasonable to our day and age, but I feel like it's more difficult than it sounds. Like we say, okay, meet people online, but then again, we have to be cautious with who we speak
Yeah.
to, and people don't really show their true colors online. People tend to just move on quickly because there's so many options available. So that's something that the Muslim community is struggling with because they, especially when it's a female trying to meet a man doesn't always have the same intentions back, and it's like, what are you meant to do in this situation? And it can be vice versa as well. Like there might be men out there who do want to get married, but the girls are just playing around. So it's very difficult to meet people online, in my opinion. At work, again, it depends on the type of work environment that you're in. So for example, I work in a Muslim environment, but because it's a Muslim environment, all of them are married because they all get married at like very young ages, and like
Okay.
the majority of them are much older than me anyways. So it's like quite difficult to introduce yourself to somebody because they're probably already married or they've already got somebody that they're speaking to and inshallah they're going to get married to. Or some of them would just be at those stages of life where they're not really open to getting married, they've got other responsibilities, etc.
Okay.
So yeah, I feel like locally in your surroundings, again, like I wouldn't say that's not an option, like that is kind of an option. But again, you know how it goes, like what do I really what do I really want in a man? Okay, I understand that I want it to be God fearing and have taqwa and whatever, all of that stuff. But like what else would I want in a man? Like how do I actually go around finding out if he has what I would want without speaking to him directly, or having other people like spy on him or something? So it's like, how do you actually go around it?
Mhm. Okay. We'll answer this. A couple of things that you mentioned. So online, it's hard to find a person because they don't show much. To be honest, that's in every situation, even if you know them in person. I mean, communication, visual communication is 50% of the communication. So when you see somebody, it's 50% of the communication. The voice is about 30, the writing then it's about 20%. That's why in emails it's very hard to understand the communication properly. So when you see somebody in person to speak with, that is you'll have the best chance to understand it because of the body language and the kind of even sometimes. So the eyes can sometimes reveal things, and you might,
Yes.
because of your experience, you would know that. But life, in terms of our dealings, the way we being social mammals and human, we all have three circles that we move within when we deal with each other. So the first one is al-mujamalat, the courtesies. The second one is al-wajibat. So this is the duties, exchanging duties. And the third one is al-ithar. It's actually when you give without waiting to actually have back, because you know you're going to have tenfolds. They'll be almost like racing who's going to give better. So no matter where you meet a person, online or in person, whenever where you meet them in any context, it could be at work, it could be in a future spouse potential, any any life walks, you always have the person in one of these three circles. And most of the people when you meet the first time is usually at the courtesies, al mujamalat. This is where you're being nice to each other. um, you deal with there's a certain space distance between you guys, so you're not very um, close to each other, and every now and then you would meet and you'd be nice to each other. So that could be a neighbor, that could be a colleague, anyone. Usually the relationship, when it moves on with time, then you have the um al-wajibat, the duties. So then you start about kind of doing things to each other. So like, so for example, you're inviting each other. So part of the al-wajib, the duty, is they invite you back. Although it's a courtesy, but it becomes start to become more of a duties involved, and then you start having more developed relationship with each other. So the courtesy then start to move, adding another layer to it where duties comes in. And then when these two work to really high percentage, because there'll be every now and there'll be some slip and some awkward stuff, some awkward things about it. And if it was too awkward, they kind of maybe stay in the courtesy, or maybe they are eligible to go up to the, you can depend on them with the duties, to exchange duties and services. If they were really good, and then you have this really nice chemistry between them, and you start really giving them without thinking that anything, that you don't think that, they got me this gift for birthday, I'm gonna give them the same gift of birthday for their birthday, although it's a bit of bid'ah, I'm not promoting that, but you know what I mean. So when you exchange gifts and what have you, or they invited me, I invite them, and this and the other, you don't think that way. You just give. You don't worry about how much you're gonna take from them, because you know them, you love them, you reach with them on a high level of being together. That's normal. So when you, for example, inshallah, you have a fiance, Nabila, when you have your fiance, inshallah, this is what will be expected. You are still at the stage of um, al-mujamalat. So he doesn't know much of you, you don't know much of them. You try to stay always your best look. So when you family visits, you don't just wake up from bed and come and sit. I've just woke up. I need to see me the way I am. No, you'll make the effort. You prepare yourself. He will do the same. This is still all mujamalat. It's all about courtesies, but he will only see that later in marriage. And the first stage of the marriage is usually the actual stage, is duties, exchanging services. You do this, I do that. We've got these two roles. We talk about it. The real ethar happens after a while. It's just inevitable. That's how it works. What happens is we go straight. We think that we went straight into ethar. Then when something happened, we get shocked. Why did that happen? I thought you're in the ethar. I'm giving you, you're giving me, etc. Why did this happen? Because you're not there yet. You have to be realistic where you are, despite of everything. Despite, as a woman, you've given yourself, you've given everything you have to this man, which you don't do with any other man, because that's what Islam says and this marriage says. Yes, but you're still exchanging duties. You have not reached the ithar yet. It happens with time. And you have to allow the relationship to mature, prosper, and then you have those fruits of it. You have to be realistic about it, inshallah. So, in terms of knowing the person truly, yes, but we seek that. So we've seen people who got married just to next neighbor, who knew her all their lives, and they had the same issues with the people that see online. But yes, people sometimes move on quickly. Sometimes patience is actually wasting your life. You shouldn't. Allah Azza wa Jal, who is the most merciful, Iblis did one sin, and he says, "Ukhruj minha." He did one sin. He says, "Out. I'm not taking any nonsense of you. Out." It says, "Anzurni." So let me, give me time. He says, "Yes, I will give you time." But he's out. That's it. He made one mistake. So there are sometimes things you don't allow people to cross the line. Keep in mind that all the people in the world now, how many sins they're making? All the atheists, all the people who curse Allah Azza wa Jal, astaghfirullah azim, all the people who don't cheat, don't think of Allah properly. They do actions that they're absolutely, they should be killed instantly. But Allah Azza wa Jal allowed them, give them time, give them time. Fir'aun, how much did he do? And Allah Azza wa Jal gave him time, يمدهم في طغيانهم يعمهون اذهب إلى فرعون إنه طغى وقل لهم قولا كريما. Oh, no, it says give him, say to him kind words. So Allah Azza wa Jal have asked Musa that Fir'aun to give him a good da'wah, kind words, despite that Fir'aun by that time he was killing children way before Moses was born. He was enslaving the Jews, killing their children, enslaving the women and the men, and have no respect to um, the relationships. And then Musa was born, and Musa was grown up to be a young man, and he was still killing and doing all this to the Jews. And then Musa left to Midian, being with the Shu'aib, he got married, and then came back. And says some of the tafsir says he became a prophet by the age of 80. So all this time, Fir'aun was a tyrant, and yet Allah Azza wa Jal sent him. Moses says, "Qulu lahu qawlan jamilan." So tell him nice, kind words. Shaitan made this one sin and it's out. But keep in mind, the Shaitan knows Allah Azza wa Jal, and he had a lot of knowledge, and he was the head of the angels. He was so high. So sometimes you accept some mistakes from people, and from others you don't accept it. So it can happen. The problem with, yes, but you're rightfully so, people move on quickly because the demand, the what's on offer is a lot, and people don't focus, and then they say the grass is always greener at the other side, and that's great issue. That is a great issue. Inshallah, I'll be talking about it in the next episode. We're talking about marriage because it does spoil a relationship. If you keep an eye on the grass being the green on the other side, it just it kills marriage. Um, so it even kill the marriage because when you meet somebody, the relationship is still weak, so it can easily kill it. Yes, you're absolutely right there, and people have to focus. And I know some people will be talking about with 2, 3, 4 girls, and sometimes even girls talk with 2, 3, 4, 5 men. They still seek engaging who would be the person, and that's not right. That's not right. Focus. Try to engage with the halal way. Get the family involved. If it didn't work, move on. No 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is absolutely on both sides. This is absolutely devastating, and it will ruin the life. And that's not Islamic. And especially sometimes when things start to happen, and the insinuations, oh, I'll get married, oh, I would love to marry you. You can't say this to 4 or 5 person at the same time, whether you are a woman or a man. You can't say this. That's just not wrong. Shouldn't be. And you have to keep in mind, there's a rules called the 7 hours, 11 interaction, 4 different places. Google knows that if you spend 7 hours exposed to something, an advert, you will fall in love with that. The social media, and this is something we are taught in the business of the social media. If somebody spent with you 7 hours listening to you in different platforms, so 11 interactions, so 7 hours over 11 interactions in the 4 different platforms, so that could be written, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, for example. You will move on from acquaintance to the people they trust as a friends and family. So this is why sometimes you get some celebrities, they get so popular because people spend as much time watching them, looking at them, and living with them for whatever they're promoting. They could be actors, they could be du'at. And then when you see them for the first time, you say, "Oh, I love you for the sake of Allah," and that person think, "Who are you?" So that person who were living those 7 hours with the celebrity, he's been developing emotional attachment because they spent the 7 hours. The celebrity didn't. So when you see them, says hello. So we get taught when somebody comes up to you, you have to understand that they spend at that time and they have this emotional attachment. Respect it. But when you spend as much time talking with the person, the 7 hours, 11 interaction, 4 platforms, you develop already emotional attachment. So you need to be careful how much time you spend with this potential spouse, because sometimes you get attachment to somebody who's just not right for you. So to be careful how much time you spend with that person. And if you have those 2 filters, your father, your mother, which depends on having a good family, a good ties, family ties, they will protect you from developing those attachment to somebody who turn up to be not right. And sometimes it's not really clear from the outset, they need to do some digging and understanding about before they get to the point. Says, well, you know what, we just found something about him, and it could be just one thing. I said, subhanallah, it could be that's one thing, could that
We can't hear you.
You're on mute. We cannot hear
We
you.
can't hear you. I don't. Can you hear us?
yes, for some reason it keep I touch everything is now touch, so I touch the touchpad on my laptop, it goes silent,
You were
everything's so
saying
sensitive
last thing
now.
you said 2 filters about the father and mother, and then we just couldn't hear you after that.
Okay, so we'll go, just let me check the, okay, but I'm surprised, can you hear me though?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Let me just get the right audio. They are wide, I don't know. Okay. Okay. So, when you have good ties with your parents, father and mother, and then you'll be able to count on these two filters. So uh, then you'll be able to count on them to protect you from getting that 7 hours spent with the wrong person, because then they'll help you with that. So it's important to have the good family ties to support you. I go back to Zainab, for example. Zainab, when she got married by the age of 10, she only managed to have very successful marriage at that early age because support of her parents. I mean, I do understand sometimes the parents are not there for whatever reason. They're not good parents, or they didn't, or they're just not there. Then, okay, you try to improvise or try to think, how can I bridge that gap? But that's the standard, subhanallah. So be careful with the 7 hours if you spend it with the wrong person, because you might then have this issues with the emotional attachment. Sister Wala, what do you think about what are the appropriate channels? We're still on that topic. Halal channels to seek a husband.
Yeah, this is a really good question. So, from my own experience, it was my when I was studying in the university. So, I knew him, but he was teaching to me. But we seek the arranged marriage way. But nowadays, I know that there are some good platforms like that you can trust them, like Dr. Zawaj from Dr. Jassim Al-Mutawwa. This is a great platform because it's well monitored. So there is a lot of monitoring there, and you cannot get like there are some very good admins there, and so I think most of the people there are respectful. I didn't try it personally, but I heard about it, and I trust Dr. Jassim Mutawa because he developed that platform. But as the girl said, and as you also said, this is not meeting the person face to face is really indispensable, because you would explore something when you see the person talking, or also it might not to be related to the person, it could be related to yourself and what you want and what you like, because there is also a physical component there in this process that will affect your decision. So yeah, that's what I know. Thank you.
Thank you. So this is another app, although we're not sponsoring Dr. Zawaj, but I'm more than happy to promote something that will help the community. So Dr. Jassim Mutawah is very highly respected counselor, marriage counselor, and subhanallah, he is jazakallah khair. So we've got this nice comment. So jazakallah khair. Dr. Jassim Mutawa is highly respected. SubhanAllah, he was a judge in family affairs, and then he became marriage counselor, and he developed, and now he's got his app for people who seek the marriage. And I've heard positive feedback about it, and obviously Dr. Wala as well. She heard good things about it, so it's really really good. Alhamdulillah. Okay, so now moving to with our. Sorry, I don't have a producer, so bear with me because I'm kind of doing this octopus effect, 8 hands thing. Um, in terms of the acceptable halal channels, so we talked about local community. So engage with the local community, either that through friends and family, acquaintance, to look locally. That will also include family and friends, online platforms, but also there's a couple other things. So one, the Islamic events and seminars. There are Islamic events and seminars. Um, MashaAllah, Tabarak al-Rahman. There's it says the Mox Factor. He took the Shahada today. MashaAllah, Tabarak al-Rahman. Allahumma barik. May Allah Azza wa Jal accept you in this Islam and hold you steady fast on the right path, inshallah. MashaAllah, Tabarak al-Rahman. So going back, there's the Islamic events and seminars where it actually is designated for marriage, where you meet people in person, and some of them are organized by mosques and in different local areas. And they try, and inshallah, it will be working, and you might find your spouse, your future spouse there. What Dr. Wala mentioned is really important, and you both kind of touched on it, Laura and Nabila, is you need to have that personal presence, not just to see in terms of the um, the communication, but also there are things that you only pick up when you see in person. From experience, I'm talking being the manager of the Islamic Center, where we deal with marriage before and after and during. There's things you only pick up in person. So like you were saying, Laura, there's people can hide, and sometimes, as I was saying, they don't hide intentionally, but you can only pick up in person. So do not commit the meeting in person, the meeting online, the online platform is valuable solution, um, and it does provide a the service for many, but you have to meet in person before you commit to anything. And be careful with the 7 hours, how this might affect and pair your judgment. So be careful. And then, first and foremost, the dua. This is a channel, believe it or not, to actually seek a husband. A dua. Pray to Allah Azza wa Jal and sincerely with full your heart, and Allah Azza wa Jal will guide this husband to you. If you think about it, sorry, subhanallah. If you think about it, there's a woman who lived in the middle of nowhere. Her father is poor. True story. Her father is poor, and they don't have much to themselves. And she ended up marrying a prophet. Do you know who's the name of the prophet?
Musa alayhi wasalam.
Exactly. Perfect. So Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, we all hear the story how he went to Madian. There was the two girls that wanted to use have access to the spring, and the men were there, and they were shyly standing by, so we helped them and support them, and he stood aside. And when they went to their father, one of them said to him, you know, maybe you can employ him. He's strong and true and trustworthy. القوي الأمين. Now in the tafsir, they said the father, when the daughter complimented Musa, he knew she liked him and she wanted him as a husband. So he asked to bring him over. And listen, he sent his daughter, and the two daughters already went to actually get the water. So they don't have a male person, not a brother or somebody to work for them. They're poor. So that gives you the status of them. And then they call for Musa, and Musa says, "أزوجك إحدى ابنتي هاتين." So he says, "I'm gonna give you a wife, one of the two daughters." And the ulama who goes with that theory, because it's tafsir, so it have different tafsir. It says he was keeping the modesty of the girl instead of saying, "I'm gonna give you this one." He says, "I'm gonna give you one of them," and he obviously married eventually. So this woman, can you imagine what a blessing she did to marry Musa. Musa, who grew up in Egypt, the pinnacle of civilization at that time, who grew up in the palace. So he was in such a high status, and he ended up in the middle of nowhere for that girl to marry him. Can you imagine that story? And it's a true story. It's mentioned in the Quran. Can you imagine how this girl is blessed to have married Musa alayhi salatu wasalam? How? Because she was a good girl. Because Allah Azza wa Jal will not give his prophet a bad girl. There was one incident when Lut had a bad girl, but that's an exception. So be a good Muslim. Have iman, taqwa, and dua is one channel. It's been used, tried and tested, and you'll have a very good person to you. Inshallah. Allah Azza wa Jal will grant you a very good husband, a very good spouse, whether you are a man or a woman. So that's something that we should not take lightly. In terms of the last thing we're going to talk about today is questions to ask a potential spouse, then in order to assess them as a compatibility as a spouse for them. Do you have any tips? To start with Lara, for example. Do you have any tips? What question you would want to ask? I know you would grill him, but do you have any questions for him?
Yeah, I'd have a whole book ready for him. I think the main things I would ask for is, how is your relationship with Allah? Like, how far along do you think you are in your journey? Do you maintain your fard prayers? What sunnahs do you incorporate in your lifestyle? What do you
You are
like
ready,
aim to
Laura.
do?
Wow.
What do you aim to do in regards to your deen? Like, what do you have goals for? And then obviously I'd ask things to do with more like dunya related matters, like, are you comfortable in your career and your financial stability? How are you with your family? And it just goes on. But I think those two things are the most important. I think in my perspective, it's more of his deen, because deen and manners is what kind of makes a man, in my opinion.
MashaAllah, tabarak ar-Rahman. Okay. Deen and manners. I like that.
Yeah.
Nabila, what questions have you prepared for your spouse, future spouse, inshallah?
So what Laura said, of course, that's a question I asked, but I like to ask questions. How do they react during challenges? How do they react when they're angry? I think those are very important questions to ask, because the early stages are always lovey-dovey. They say the honeymoon stage.
Yeah.
But really understanding how that person copes when it comes to anger, sadness, grief, because let's be honest, no one wants to be with someone who has a short fuse, right? It'd be
Yes.
very difficult. Another thing is, like, how do they and from those questions you would understand, are they the type of person who needs space when they get upset? Do they need to communicate? I think those are things are important to take in consideration. Another thing I'll ask is about health. That's also important. There's mental health. Those are things to take in consideration as well too. Is that something that you can, bear with during the marriage? Because we avoid questions like that, and once they get married, they realize, oh, this person has a bipolar disorder. This person has depression, or this person has health concerns. This person, like, you have to ask all these important questions before you get involved in a marriage.
Okay.
That's
Very,
so
very good.
true.
Okay. We've got comments from Mary. I'll come back to you. But Dr. Wala, what do you think in terms of Other questions. What would you have for inshallah future husband questions?
So actually, by experience, I learned that not what said is true, because we say one thing and do another. But actually, is putting the person in some kind of tests or real life situations where we can see their reactions. And also, another direct question that I would ask is, in addition to what the girl said, is asking about how was that man's childhood, because childhood will really affects the rest of our life. How is his relationship with his mom and his father, his sisters? Is he, because that will show me if he's if he what he needs, actually that will tell me about his needs. I know that some men who, for example, didn't have a good mother relationship, they would seek that correction all the time, or they would try to avoid that model of a bad mom. So these are actually what but actually for me, actions speak louder than words. So I would see some situations in front of me, like I would spend some time in the khutuba or the engagement, and to see the actual actions from my future husband.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Jazakallah khair. They are really good questions, and I would like to make some comments on them before I talk about the things that also I think that we need to look into it and ask the questions. So, in terms of deen and manners, the thing is, when you want to look into a person to get married, you'll have to look into harmony first and foremost. So, this is what Dr. Wala is insinuating with, and this is what all of you has been looking for, is the harmony. So, although the hadith of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he says, "Man إذا أتاكم من ترضون دينه وخلقه فزوجوه إن لم تفعلوا فتكن فتنة." So, when somebody come to you with good manners and good deen, give him your daughter in marriage, and unless you do so, there will be not good times. It'll be fitna. So, it'll be some difficult times. Now, if you look again what I said earlier, so you have to look into the biography of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then you need to look into as a whole. Don't take just one hadith and then go with it. I know one of the cases I had in the center. There is a sister who had bad relationships, as in like she knew a couple of people potentials, and her heart got broken. One of them was actually a colleague at work, and she had high hopes for him, but then he wasn't a good person. If, from her perspective, because I can't judge, I'm only going with her statement. And then decided that she'll have to have a person with deen, no matter what. It's just a deen. And she found a person with good deen, and he was a provider, and they got married. But she never really rested. She never really settled in a relationship. She in the marriage. She had 2 children with him, and she lived with him. And they faced, like any other relationship, they faced challenges. And she would say, whenever they face a challenge, is, you know what, I could have had somebody better than you, and I only accepted you because of the deen. Yet you treated me this way. You should appreciate. She was, in her views, she was way more beautiful than him, and she could have had somebody who's more beautiful than her, um, whatever that is. And she had really good life standards. He didn't have much good life standards, so she was accepting all that because she wanted the deen. But the deen on its own, with all respect, is not enough. What you need also is the character that you can live with. As-Sahabas had different characters. So Umar ibn Khattab was different to Abu Bakr. Abu Bakr was different to Zubair ibn Awam. And they're all people of Mubashirin bil Jannah, the 10 people Allah, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to them, you are in heaven. Uthman ibn Affan, Abdurrahman ibn Auf, all the Sahabas, Abu Ubaidah Amr ibn Jarrah, Sahabas, they have different characters. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam had Fatima, their last daughter. She was very happy, content living with her father and the household. She didn't want to get married. And I'm saying she didn't want to get married because that's what the seerah says. And he wanted her to get married. But then Um, and then he wanted to get married. As it happens, Abu Bakr came because she was 20 and she was getting on. So she's almost 30 in our time. We're 35 and she hasn't get married yet. And we all know that's, oh, even for, especially for the Muslim woman, you haven't got married for this age. What's going on? This is culturally, I'm talking. I'm not saying but personally. But in terms of culture, this is what people will say. So she was really getting on in age. So Abu Bakr came proposed. And he said to him, no, she's still too young. And that used to be the courteous way to decline a marriage proposal. So she's still too young. Although she's 20, she's not young. Umar ibn Khattab came and says, no, she's too young. Now, what we have here is somebody who's got the most high faith, religion, iman. There's nobody above Abu Bakr. There's only Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So the best person of the Ummah have proposed, and Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam declined him. Umar ibn Khattab, the second best one, declined him. Why? Because they were not the right person for Fatima. The right person for Fatima, him as a father, Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, had chose Ali for her. So you'll have to choose from the people of Iman the right person for you. The right person for you could be somebody who just to pray the five times. For you, could be depends on where you are with your journey with faith. If you marry somebody who memorize the Quran with the 10 qira'at, do the Qiyam al-Layl, fast the Monday and Thursday, and do the sadaqat and Qira'at al-Quran, yakhtam al-Quran, he read the Quran every week, might be not the right person for you. So you have to choose within the faith the right level for you, the right character. Otherwise, this big gap is going to be not easy to work with. That big gap. Unless he's really understandable of the difference and be able to deal with that. And that level takes a level of maturity. And it takes also a level of cooperation from both sides. Because Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was the greatest man of Iman, was married to to Aisha. And Aisha was very young wife, didn't have all that, but he was able to take her under his wing and support her and nourishing her and teaching her kindly and gently. So you'll have to have that maturity to bridge that gap. And that's what you have to look for. So be careful with the gaps and see how you're going to bridge them. But what you need to look for is the harmony within the Muslims, inshallah. So deen and manners, perfect. Yes, absolutely right. But what you need to look for is the harmony within the deen. There's you mentioned something really good, Dr. Wala. The relationship with the mom and dad. Being the way we are, we got born from a mother, we live with the father and the mother, and then we grow up in life. Whether you want or not, they have effect the parents, the mother and father, on the way we think and what we want and what we don't want. So, for example, if a woman had a successful relationship with her father, even if she didn't mean that, she's comfortable with somebody who's similar character to her father because she knows how to deal with that person. Equally, if she married somebody who's in similar character to her father, she knows how to deal with that. She have a very good chance of managing that relationship and be successful because she spent 20 years of her life, 25 years of her life dealing with a man who's got the same character. If the person was different to her father and she had a good relationship with her father and she lived with her father, then there's a learning curve how to deal with this new character because she's not used to that. And that learning curve would come with its own difficulties, would come with its own challenges, it come with its own failure. It could be some of them are catastrophic. So that's always keep in mind, and that goes for the parents, both man with his mom and the woman with her father. Keep in mind sometimes the son, maybe his first love is his father, not his mother. So he kind of look up to his dad. You want to be with his dad. So if that's the case, and you'll be able to find that easily. What do you think of your dad? Come on, really, tell me. What do you think of your dad? Is there areas of conflict where do you think What do you think yourself? Do you follow the same path of your dad? Do you want to be like your dad? Or there's ways to actually ask that and sense that. And then if he said yes, then you know how it's going to be. If not, then you will know. If he says no, then you know what it's not going to be. We've just been joined by Nashwa Al Qadi. She worked with me in the Islamic Center. So, Salaam alaikum, Nashwa.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Thank you for
Hello.
joining us.
You're welcome.
How long you been with us? Have you been with us from the beginning of the conversation?
No, just now.
Okay. We'll ask you questions later, inshallah.
Inshallah. Thank you.
Okay. Most welcome. Thank you so much. So this is where the mom and dad, you have to look into it and check how this might be in the be with the relationship, because they'll be influenced by them. Whether they want or not, they can't, because they lived with them for a long time. So they could be, for example, don't like their father, so they want not to be like the father. So they already have a starting point. And as I said earlier, when you choose to be something, you choose not to be something else. But every road will have its own challenges and difficulties. So if he chose not to be like her father, he or she decided not to be like her mother, she wants to be something different. What is that different? And that difference also would come with own challenges and curves. In terms of, you mentioned also something, Nabila, the honeymoon stage. Yes, we all have that, by the way. I've studied in business, believe it or not, that relationships have three phases. You got, we can call it the romance, the conflict, and the commitment. So you got the sugar stage, beginning, and then the storming, and then the calming, and settling and commitment. Um, yeah, Nabila is back. So it is inevitable that relationship will go through the stages. The first one is you first met, and there's this big wow factor. Especially someone you're getting married to, because unless you have that wow factor, why are you marrying them? That's concern. And in my, which I'll mention later, inshallah, one of the things, my tips is to maintain the successful marriage. Always maintain the wow factor in your life, as husband and wife. Even if sometimes you have to say it but you don't mean it, always maintain it. It's like when you support your child, everything they do is wow, well done, because that support them emotionally. And that comes from sabr, from tasabbur, al-hilm bil-tahallum. Sometimes to be patient, you'll have to, do it despite that what you feel. But I'll talk more about this, inshallah, in the next episode. So in terms of the honey phase, yes, we all go through this honey phase, and then the more we get close to each other, unless we really prepared for the conflicts and how we deal with them, we're gonna hit the conflict. And it could be happen easily, by the way, out of being good. So let's say in marriage, so you met somebody and you were with them, and um things start to look more, because you get close, so close to the person, you start to look into, looks in details. So even your fingerprint, if you look into close enough, you see all these groves of your fingerprint, but if you hold it back, you'll not see it. So the more you get closer, you see all these details. Those details, for example, maybe he's a snorer, or she, maybe they have this bad habit, the way it's doing it again. I don't know why it's doing it. Anyway, so the way, maybe they have this bad habits, bad breath, whatever, something that really irritates you, and then you wanna hold it back. Says it's fine. I'm not gonna make any comment. And then other things start happening. Maybe a little slip here, a little mistake here, a little sarcasm comment here. Um, not being tidy around the house, or being too tidy around the house, whatever, little things start to come and uh, become visible, and you start saying, you know what, just let go, don't sweat the small stuff, and they are the small stuff, but then you brush them under the carpet. I'm going to talk more about them in the next episode, how to deal with them. But what I'm saying is, you brush them under the carpet, and then something happened, and then woof, you have that explosion. Then you have the second phase. And unless you know how to deal with the second phase, you'll not go to the third phase, which is then commitment, real commitment. And I was saying al-ithar, to give without actually be concerned, because you've already went through challenges, you went through difficult times, and you went through them, and then you can count on the person, vice versa, and then you become to the ithar. You feel now safe, really safe with the person. Not just, we've done all the formalities, I'm gonna marry you, I feel safe, I'm giving you everything that I have. That's not right yet. Safety, when you feel really safe with the person, it takes time and commitment and hard work to do that. So then you have that explosion, and then if you manage how to go through over that explosion, you get to the commitment. Everybody goes through that. So you got the honeymoon, you got the storming, and then you got the calm down, and everybody goes through that. And as I said, we started in business, but it's actually a social. I wouldn't say theory; it's actually practice. It happens. Everything we go through it, and unless you, at the beginning, at the engagement time, you have already discussed what are your bad traits. Tell me about them. Don't hold back. Tell me what they are. Don't lie to me. What are they? How can I deal with you in difficult times? I've just had a session, open session yesterday, and one woman was complaining that her husband, she said, I try to deal with him in proper Islamic manners. So I try my best whenever he's angry with me, not to allow him to sleep without being happy. So I try my best to make it up for him. But the secret, and he said, it's not working. I says, well, okay, you've got two things here. One, you're not allowing him to sleep. So you're already stopping him and he's not happy about it. Two, it's not working and you're still doing it. And I'm sure you tried different ways, but still not working. So one, allow him to sleep. Maybe that will be the right way. Two, ask him, what is the right way to deal with you? How can I deal with you when you're not happy? How can I go through the challenge? And what are the parameters we're working with? So if you're angry with me, am I in danger? Are you going to divorce me? How far are you going to go with your anger? So, and that's al-fujur fil khusuma. So once the honeymoon is gone, Nabila was mentioning, then you see the other face. Because some people are not able to hold back when they're angry, and they have to learn that, what, when you're angry, I'm not feeling safe. I'm feeling insecure. And I had a couple who the wife always felt insecure when the husband was angry. And they were saying, I'm only angry. I just need a couple of days and I'll calm down. And I said, well, the way around it is when you get angry because it's only going to be a couple of days, you can just simply say to her, listen, I'm angry. I need a couple of days to calm down. I'm not divorcing you. Calm down. Because she's not calming down, she's making things worse. He's getting more angry, and then that escalation explosion is just going crazy. So open communication. Use always in my nikah speech. I always say use this time when everything is glossy, everything is sparkling, everything is a wow. Even the touch when you get married, the simple touch will send you to the highest ecstasy level. Simple touch. Use this time to actually plan for the hard times, and they will come. Everybody hit hard times. Everybody. Even Muhammad sallam and his wives, they had hard times. If you read the biography properly, he had hard times with Aisha, with Hafsa. He had hard times. We don't know much about Khadija, we don't know about the others, but this is the two that was mentioned. And Hafsa actually was mentioned in the Quran, in Surah Al-Tahrim, the beginning of Surah Al-Tahrim. So how do we deal with the hard times? Most of you, especially the women and men, when they say, okay, I want to marry somebody with faith and religion, and they think, they all take it for granted that the one they marry, because he's got iman and knows Allah Azza wa Jal and Islam and what have you, he will be kind to me in times of anger. That's not the case. It might not be the case. Sahabas got divorced. Abu Bakr divorced. Umar divorced. الزبير بن العوام divorced. الصحابة got divorced. Muhammad صلى الله عليه وسلم divorced. And one of the narrations says she's the daughter of Nu'man. He divorced her at the night of the wedding. Divorced her. So divorce can happen. And if you, obviously, when you get married, you're not thinking of, you don't want to get divorced. So how do you preempt that? You have to plan. You have to make an assessment of risks that might be coming. So divorce is one way. How can we avoid that? So plan for it. You sit down together and says, okay, what irritates you? You can simply say that. Simple question, straightforward. What irritates you? What's your triggers? How do I deal with them? How do you deal with you angry? Do you want me to make my best that you don't sleep without me looking after you? Abu Darda said to his wife when he's married, Darda, he said to her, إذا غضبت أرضني. So he said to her, if you make me angry, make me happy. You have to work for me to become happy. Now, being an Arabic woman, proud as well, she was saying, "What about me?" He says, "And if I made you angry, I'll make you happy." So that tells you from the beginning, he was saying to her, "Listen, don't leave me when I'm angry. You have to work for it." So you have to have this communication with them. Um, Now, the other things I would say that you need to talk about is what are your religious beliefs and practices. We know sometimes being a certain sect that you'll be looking for. You know what? Let's ask Nashwa because we didn't manage to ask Nashwa. Nashwa, I know Nashwa is single because she works with me. Nashwa, she's the project coordinator in the Islamic Center. And thank you for joining us. She works from Egypt online. Just like you, Lara, by the way, you work online as well. Nashwa, what questions would you ask your spouse to be?
What's the question?
If somebody proposed to you and you wanna see, how are they good spouse or not? Somebody propose, and what would you ask them?
I would ask them to be honest.
Okay.
I would ask him to respect, because I feel that when we have no respect in our relation, it means that it's over. So this is the thing, that one of the things that I couldn't live without it. Respect in my relationships. Express himself if he will feel that he's angry. I would love him to tell me. I wouldn't love to guess why he is upset. I would love him to tell me
You
if
want to
he
play
is
the
angry
guesswork
or
game, huh? Just
no.
tell me.
I don't
I'm
love.
not gonna start
I don't.
guessing.
I don't love to guess.
Yeah.
I love the direct people. When someone is
Yeah.
direct to me, this is really will let me be happy. It will make me happy when
Yes.
someone is direct to me. But if I will think about it, why he's upset, why he's not talking to me, or he changed suddenly, this will make me unhappy.
Yeah. Okay. Really good. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So, one comment about respect. Some women are happy, and I've met women who have that through the center. They're happy to maintain the relationship, the marriage, even that they've lost respect to their spouse. And I personally say, if you don't have respect, the marriage is dead. It's important to have marriage, respect, and the marriage can survive with respect, but with no love. But the marriage difficult. It will be. It's really great challenge if to survive without respect, even if there was love. So thank you so much, Nashwa. In terms of the questions I would ask, I would propose to you what to ask questions. So talk about, for example, religious beliefs and practices. How do you prioritize beliefs in your daily life? Are you happy to let your praise slip because you're busy with this and the other? What are the Islamic values that's important to you? And that then tells you about the person. Uh, because they, for example, are they kind? Are they more into uh, kind of diplomatic about approach or conflict? They will tell you with that. And how do you envision incorporating the Islamic principle in our relationship? and the family life. How what do you know about the seerah? Being Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is our role model in the Sahaba, in the Sahabas. How do you see? Can you give an example? How are you going to deal with me in difficult times? Um, Commitment to Islamic lifestyle. This is very important, obviously, because you married somebody who's Muslim, and I assume you want the Islamic lifestyle. So, are you committed to following the Islamic guidelines in matters such as dress, dietary habits, interactions with the opposite gender? Is he flirtatious, or is he pious? Does he lower his gaze? Vice versa. Um, how do you plan to maintain and strengthen your faith throughout our marriage? I know a couple who did one Ramadan preparing for Ramadan. They actually got this whiteboard and they put a plan of how they're gonna do Ramadan. So together they planned we're gonna do as much reading of the Quran, and they spaced it out. We're gonna do as much sadaqah. We're gonna do this commitment and the other, and we're gonna plan our day. So I mean, this is obviously the character works with that, but you don't have to go that far. But how much would you how do you incorporate these life Islamic values, the family values and expectations? So what are your views on gender roles within the marriage? What do you expect from me as a man? What do you expect from you as a woman? um and it have to be as outlined in Islam, because this is your reference point, and this is one of the things. The reason why you're marrying a Muslim, because you have that reference point. The reason why you marry a Muslim, because if something happened, then you'll say, تردوه إلى الله ورسوله. So you understand, did Allah Azza wa Jal said yes to this and Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam or not? This is your reference point. And how do you envision fulfilling your responsibilities towards our family as prescribed by Islam? Do you want me to work? Um, or do you want me to be a housewife? I don't want to be a housewife. Some women want to work. What are your views on me working? How are you going to support me in this? Or I have, for example, ambition to do my PhD, my master's and PhD, and I want to go and conquer the world and be the next Marie Curie, for example. You know, there's no haram about you working, you as a woman, but your priorities obviously is family and children, because you're the only one who can make them, produce them. So you have great value there, and Allah Azza wa Jal have given you great also respect, being the mother. Ummuka thumma abak. But there's nothing haram to say, I have this thing about me. I want to fulfill this urge and sorry, it's gone. This sneeze has been killing me. So you have to be open about what's your aspirational life and how do you plan to fulfill them. And again, working with harmony. Are they going to be supportive or not? I get I get angry with brothers who want to marry a woman who doesn't want to work, but then they go and marry somebody who wants to work, and then they ask her not to work. Well, marry somebody who doesn't want to work to start with, and just that's easy, like for everybody. Harmony again. Um, and then are you open to supporting each other and fulfilling religious duties? Like Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says, um, uh, ينضح الماء, so sprinkle water and your spouse to get up to قيام الليل. وأمر أهلك بالصلاة. So are you gonna support me? Are you gonna fulfill me? Are you gonna help me to be a better Muslim? How your intention? What's your intentions to do that? I know many brothers. I wouldn't say many, but I know brothers will say, I'll leave it to you. If you wanna put the hijab on, it's up to you. If you wanna pray, it's up to you. It's not for me. It's relationship with Allah Azza wa Jal. I'll leave it to you. That's wrong. Being the household, you need to support the wife. If you wanted to pray, if you want to practicing Muslim, marry practicing Muslim and support each other. Remind yourself, did you pray? Did you pray? Let's pray. You have to have this engagement. You have to be involved and active rather than be on the sidelines. Oh, you do. No. You'll have to be engaged and committed to the success of the relationship. So, and what you're gonna do? What do you think about me attending the mosque? So the wife can ask, I want to attend the mosque. I want to attend Taraweeh, for example. I want to go with you to Taraweeh. What do you think? The husband have the right to say no. Although the Quran says, لا تمنعوا إماء الله من don't stop them from going to mosque. But the husband does have the right not to allow her to go. Is that an issue or not? Atika, she was married to Abdullah ibn Umar, and then she was married to Umar ibn Khattab, and then she was married to Zubair ibn Awam. So they called her the wife of the martyrs. And then Muawiyah again wanted to marry her, and she said, "No, I've had enough. I don't want to get married anymore. That's it." The two men, Abdullah ibn Umar and Umar ibn Khattab, their condition is she was so beautiful and she was very famous and she came from a good lineage, a good family. She's one of the famous women in the Islam. Look her up, Atika bint Zayd ibn Umar, I think her name, but Atika. And so when she married the Zubair, her condition was, I'll marry you, but you need to allow me to go to the mosque. He said, okay, I'll let you go. But he was a jealous man. Zubair ibn Awam was very jealous man. In one of the biographies, he hid at night and she was passing by and he touched her briefly. And she was angry and she said, what happened? She didn't know it was her husband. And she went back home and never went to the mosque again. And he tells the story in a giggly way and laughing that he was mischievous. But so he was a bit mischievous how he stopped her from going to the mosque. So are you going to support me to go to the mosque or not? Ali ibn Abi Talib, it was narrated, he was jealous of Fatima to go to the mosque. And when Fatima reported that to her father, he says, well, he's your husband. I would say, try to allow her, but he's got the right to stop you from going to the mosque. So these things, what are you going to do about fasting? What about giving charity? Are we going to dedicate enough money every month, £10? These details are important, but they'll tell you also about the character person that you're with. Communication, conflict resolution. This is what Nashwa was talking about, and then pretty much even Nabila was talking about, and Dr. Wala. Sorry, I don't mean to leave you out, Lara, because you mentioned somehow. Communication, conflict resolution. How do you approach resolving conflicts in a manner consistent with Islamic teaching? Are you going to be kind to me? Are you going to be halim? So you're going to have this easy manners with me, or not? How do you do it? Do you go fly off the handle and be angry, and then you know what? I only meant it. Only meant good. It's come out from a good place. Forgive me. It might work with you. This character might not work. So you have to look into it. Are you open to seeking guidance from Islamic scholars or mentors and resolving marital issues? Or you say, I don't believe in any of the scholars. They're all, out there. Everybody, subhanallah, and then whatever you have bad things to say about ulama. I know how to seek advice. Okay, well, how do you seek advice? What book you're gonna read? How are you gonna seek it? Let's say, for example, we have hypothetically this scenario. How are you gonna resolve it? How do you prioritize open and respectful communication within our relationship? So when you're angry, how are we gonna work it out? I'm angry. How are we gonna work it out? Like Abu Darda and Abu Darda says, how? How is important. And by the way, when you ask the 5 whys, you get to the bottom of it. So why did you do this? Because. Why? Because. And why? When you ask 5 times, you get to the real bottom of it. Why? Then you get really why it's happened. And that's the prescription. Future goals and aspirations. How do you see our marriage contributions to our individual and collective goals in life and hereafter? What do you want our children to be? How are they going to live? How are we going to be? What's your seeking? The most supreme goal of marriage is to support each other to go back to heaven. And inshallah to Firdaus al-A'la, not just heaven, the highest place in paradise, which is the Firdaus al-A'la, where you will see Allah Azza wa Jal face. So the point really is to support each other while exchanging these services, or having ithar, we feel better, having this really nice relationship which have all rewards in ajr, and have this nice journey in life going back to Allah Azza wa Jal heaven. We all need the support. Adam, he was some narrations said he was already in heaven, and he couldn't be on his own. Everybody was pair, and he says, I'm alone. So he was up there. He was the most respectful creature. Angels just did ruku' for him. There was big guha and with the iblis. And despite of all that, I was alone. I want somebody with me. It's all in us that we need to be with somebody. but we want to. Purpose of that is one, to kathir al-ummah, and 10, yes, one, to increase al-ummah, correct. But the other one is to support each other to go back to heaven. So that's the purpose, the dual purpose of marriage. The وجعل لكم من أنفسكم أزواجا لتسكنوا إليها وجعلنا بينكم مودة ورحمة. So we have created from you, your pair, to have peace with them, and that will help you. Shatruddin, the marriage is Shatruddin. Shatr means either half or part of, and some of the ulama went with the first meaning, that is actually the half of it. Are you open to discuss in aligning our goals in accordance with Islamic principles? So if your goals, maybe he didn't have that goal, well, are you happy to discuss? I have this goal in life. I want to have 5 children, and one of them have to be the next alim. So from an early age, I want him to memorize the Quran. I want to support him to be the next alim. But I want all my children to be ulama. Are you open for this? I said, oh, you know what? I can't be bothered. We just give them to school. And so what are your goals? It's an invitation for you to think about your future. And then based on that, look into the questions that you're going to ask so you can align your visions together instead of taking things for granted. Go into relationship, go into marriage, and then you realize, whoops, that doesn't work. I thought I took it for granted. Don't take anything for granted. You're already not taking things for granted because you say, I'm going to approach with cautious. So you're not taking for granted. So why take the other things for granted? Do not take things for granted. Ask and talk as much as you want. There's no haram and have a long period of khutbah as long as it's done Islamically. So you'll have a mahram. You don't have this being alone in a private place, in a closed space. Talk. I know some of the ways we do it. We set up this WhatsApp group where the mahram is in the group and they talk to the WhatsApp group. And when things develop and move on, they can come to the house, speak with her, and the presence of their family. So talk. Take as much time. Talk and explore and read about it and learn about it. There's one question. I finished what I want to say. Mary Ann says that she thinks that the time has come that good eligible men are less, so most men will have to have more than one wife. That's always been the case, to be honest. I'm 50 and I've always heard that. So, but it's good. It says good and eligible, but they have to be in coordinating. There's no, although it's shara, but you have to be la darar wal dirar. So you have to be careful how to do that, not to affect your life severely with the other wife. That's something for example, you want to discuss first. One of the cases I had, this woman got married to this man only because he's got really good deen, and she only had one condition. She didn't care about the money. She didn't care about the status. She didn't care about the physical appearances. She said one thing. She and her father said, we don't do polygamy. We don't like polygamy. The father said that. The woman said that. Says, we don't do polygamy. If, polygamy is halal. If you want to do polygamy, go and find someone else. It says, inshallah, no problem. Inshallah, inshallah. And then they get married and they have 2 children. And then he starts saying, well, I want polygamy. He says, well, I said no polygamy. He says, well, I didn't say yes. I said, inshallah. And, that didn't work. So I want polygamy. So be careful and just say what you want from the beginning. I mean, shara, in terms of shara, there's nothing stopping from changing his mind. But it's a better chance if you're not into polygamy to say from the beginning, listen, I don't find me. If you change your mind later, you can't change your mind as a woman who doesn't like polygamy. But just have open communication. What do you want? What you don't want? There is another question. Mary Ann, I think, no. Maria. Maria. She says said, Alhamdulillah. She said, do you think premarital counseling is important? I do think it's important because you need somebody with experience, and that's why I mentioned earlier the 2 filters: the mom and the mother and the father. And if they're not available, well, let's see if I'm somebody who's available to bridge the gap, which I mentioned earlier. So maybe you don't have to be with an imam or a counselor.
If anything, maybe there is not somebody that you can have access to, although we're available online. We do have our meetings and counseling through Zoom, so we are available despite of geographical distance. Our services, though, are paid, so you'll have to pay for that service. But you don't need our service because you can maybe, use your uncle who would know about your cultural differences, know about you probably more, who would know, then be able to discuss that from strength point because he knows. So what does that involve? The involve is assessment of the two spouses, and then try to see the harmony, how that would work, and bridge the gap. And it might maybe say the hard truth is, guys, you're not compatible. It's gonna take a lot of hard work. Everything happens; it can happen, but it's gonna take a lot of hard work. Maybe it's good. Maybe it's good for you not to continue in this venue. It happens. One of the cases, they will all get married. They all got married, and then had to block. The husband decided not to continue, and the wife, she's tried desperately, to keep the marriage. She went to counselors, she went to imams. I was one of them, and we all agreed it's dead. Just let go. She said, I can't let go. I'll have to have that marriage. I'm too old for it. I'm not gonna work. And you know what? It happened. The divorce happened. I'll try my best. Didn't happen, and eventually she had to give up and submit to the husband wish, and did not work. Yet 3 4 years later, through social platform, sorry, not social, through website, she met somebody. She did this with the supervision of her mom. um, they met in person. He wasn't even far, about maybe an hour away, 45 minutes. They met, and now they're happily married. They have a child, and mashallah, he's a great person. And they both even have the same quirkiness, I would say. um, and they're very happy. So although she was saying, no, I want to hold on to the first marriage, Allah Azza wa Jal had different plans for her, and she tried her best. I give her that, but it was dead. You have to let go, and she did let go really bitterly. Wasn't happy, and she was really sad. Um, really sad. Mary Anya, go on. What's the question? So she was really sad. But then a few years later, she got married, and I have plenty of stories, for happy marriage or remarriage. Alhamdulillah. So as long as you seek the good intention and have dua to Allah Azza wa Jal and seek His support and help and guidance, Allah Azza wa Jal will show you the way. Even if you go through a bad phase, um, Allah Azza wa Jal will guide you. And my advice is always, we all make mistakes, but when you make a mistake, act right. Acting right will actually correct your mistake. So today we were reading about how Sulaiman, um, when he was demonstrating, they had a march for his army. He was a king, so his army was doing a march, and he was looking at them, and he allowed one salah to slip, not to praying, and Allah Azza wa Jal wasn't happy with him, and he made him a hopeless body on his throne. And then he taba wa anab, so he gave redemption, and he became good again. He asked for forgiveness, and then he asked even for more um, reigning as a king. So gave him Allah Azza wa Jal reigning over the age, gave him reigning over the jinn. So he made the redemption, asked for even more. So this is something. You make a mistake, we all make mistakes, but then try to correct it as soon as possible by doing things right, not making a mistake and correcting by another mistake. And there's other stories, but we're not going to go further into it. I'm just going to take this one last question. This episode was supposed to be 1 hour. Alhamdulillah, we're now hour and a half. And I'm sorry, Lara, Wala, Nashwa, and Nabila. Would you like to add anything, by the way?
No, I guess we'll just wait for the next episode. It was very well.
I can't hear you, Nabila, if you want to.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Oh, I can't hear any of you. I don't know why.
Oh no.
I can't hear you. Okay, I'll take this question. I think you have sound problem. I don't know if it's from my end. Mary Ann saying, what do you think about the huge age gap between our Prophet uh, sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Ummuna Aisha radiallahu anha wardaha? And I mean, is it possible to have such an age gap in today's time? I'm not sure about the exact years of the age gap, but let's say in uh, age gap, any age gap, as long as there's harmony, I have no problem. As long as there's already been assessment, I think it's not me. I have a problem, but I don't have a problem. But I mean is it can be successful, as long as there's harmony, as long as they've already looked into the risks and they have a plan how to manage those risks. So risk management. I just have a consultation yesterday. One sister was saying this person have proposed to me. He's younger than me. There's an age gap, and she's married with children. Divorced. Sorry, she's divorced with children. Sorry, she's divorced with children, and he's married and wants a second wife. Although she's not much into polygamy, but says I'm happy to consider it, maybe. But the age gap, I'm concerned about the age gap. Says, well, it's all about do you feel safe with him? Because let's face it, the issue about the age gap is one is about maturity. So is he going to be mature enough to be in the relationship? So ask him, see if there's maybe mature for his age. Two, women usually are concerned about their beauty. They might start look older, then he might start look further afield. Maybe he likes this type of beauty. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam loved Umm Khadija, despite of how old she is. Aisha used to say that Umm Khadija was hamra shidqain, so she had no teeth whatsoever. All what you see is the gum when she smiles. Being that time in day and age, no dental care. Yet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam loved her so much. So love does add a layer of this romance look, and maybe you don't think much of the look. If you ask any husband and wife who've been married for some time, what do you love about your wife? They'll mention basically just the character, the way they together. They don't mention much about the look, not just being because they're shy. They would say something about it. And if you ask Muhammad, and Aisha did mention Khadija, then Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned how much he loved Khadija. He mentioned all the character attributes and how much she did for him and how much she sacrificed for him. He didn't mention anything about physical appearances. While Aisha was saying, as a physical appearance, Aisha will win in her mind by a mile. But he was saying it's not about the physical appearance, although that Khadija was older than Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So it's not it works both way. So it's about the harmony. Do you have harmony? Is there a maturity? What's gonna happen when the woman get old, for example, or the man get old? Is he gonna be not be able to have physical strength? He's gonna be too old. Maybe he should end up being a nurse for him, because this is the language I've heard. Is she willing to take that on? Maybe. And if she's sincere into that, why not? I know some people don't want to take that challenge, but it is what it is. And I would take people on face values unless I have other call to make me doubt them. Um, that's my answer for that. Okay, so one last word. I don't know if Lara and Nabila managed to fix the sound. Is it my
Can you hear us now?
issue from my end? Well,
We
yeah,
can hear
Sister
you, but
Mary.
it seems you can't hear us.
So, voila. Okay, I can't hear none of you. So I don't know if this is my issue here.
Can you hear me now?
Just a second. Let's see if it's my issue. Hello?
Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you now. So yes.
Okay, alhamdulillah.
So one
So
last
do you have
thing
any
that I'd
last
like
words?
to add. Yeah, I'd like
Yes.
to add that if you want to meet the good person or the person of your dream, you must be that person first in order for Allah to match you with the perfect half of you.
Yeah. So dua. Perfect. Jazakallah khair. Lara, any last words?
Thank you very much. It was a very, very informative discussion today. One thing I do want to ask is, do you have
Yes.
any du'as that you would recommend to find a spouse?
Okay. I want to first give you there's something about the dua. So when Muhammad صلى الله عليه وسلم says اليوم أكملت لكم دينكم وأتممت عليكم نعمتي ورضيت لكم الإسلام مدينة in the Hajjat al-Wada, he says this is now the Islam has been perfected. There's nothing to add to it. There's one thing that's left that you can add to it, a dua. Why? There's certain dua that Muhammad صلى الله عليه وسلم have taught us, and there was one Sahabi, he says, I don't know how to make dua like you. And Mu'adh says, well, what do you do dua? He says, well, I pray to Allah Azza wa Jal, give me goodness, look after my, to take care of my sheeps and home and, health. He says, well, حولها ندندن. So it says, around this, we just say what we say. So you can just simply ask Allah Azza wa Jal, Allah Azza wa Jal, give me a good husband. As simple as that. Give me a husband عاجلا غير آجل نافعا غير ضار حلالا طيبا مباركا بأهون الأسباب وأيسرها بدون تضحيات. Sorry, I'll say it in Arabic. So you can simply ask Allah Azza wa Jal to give you a good husband, a good spouse, with the easiest ways. You can name person if you have a person in mind. Says, if he's good for me, give it to me. If not, give me someone else that who's good for me and make me happy about it. That's dua al-istikhara, basically.
Yeah.
And um, and then you just simply ask Allah Azza wa Jal for the husband. It says, sorry, Nashwa, you want to say something?
Yes, please.
Yeah, come on.
I just want to add that there is a dua in Quran. It was for Prophet Musa. رب إني لما أنزلت إلي من خير فقير.
That's
He
my
said
favorite.
that. He said that
Nabila has told
when
me to say that dua since day one. That's like her favorite dua. Bless her. Yeah.
yes, I just want to say this.
Yeah.
ربي لا
Thank you for
تذرني
sharing.
فردا. Yeah,
رب إنني ما أنزلت لي من خير فقير. That's
yeah.
the one.
But what I want to teach you is you don't have to go and prescribe dua. This dua is simple. It says, I'm too weak. Allah Azza wa Jal, don't leave me alone and give me a spouse.
Yeah.
That's basically what he's saying. You don't have to say
Yeah.
it in Arabic because some people learn it how it is in the Quran because they say this is how it should be said. No. He said it in his own language and then it was not given to us in Arabic. You don't have to say it in this way. What you have to say, this is where it get then prescribed, if you like. Usul al-du'a, the proper way to make dua. First is to be to eat from halal. All your life is halal. So you can do all sorts of things for the dua. One thing will stop them. No matter how things, you can give sadaqat, you can make dua, and you can do all sorts of things. One thing will stop the dua. If you do, if your life is not halal. If your life is not halal, that's gonna work.
Yeah.
So you try to your best ability that you have a halal life. Because sometimes you don't know, things are not clear. Try your best. Make it halal. Make your life halal. Always. Once it's halal, then the dua mustajab. A dua mustajab, Allah Azza wa Jalla will accept the dua. Then what's the best way to do the dua is you start by praising Allah Azza wa Jalla, and then you can make salah on Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then ask for your dua, and then finish with the salah on Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Yep.
This is the dua that's been taught by the hadith of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, how to do the dua. The best time for the dua is there's Sa'atul Istijab, there's a time of answering, which is every Friday. So that's between Asr and Maghrib. There is time of accepting the dua is when Sheikh doing al khutbah from the time there's adhan till he actually finished the khutbah. That's the time of accepted dua. There's also the time of Thuluth al-Akhir min al-Layl, the last third of the night. There is also Ramadan.
Yep.
There is دعوة الصائم حتى يفطر أو دعوة الصائم عند الإفطار. So if you fast any day, but could be Monday and Thursday, if you do the fasting if you do the dua while fasting, or at least while you break the fast, that's accepted dua. This is the time of answering the dua. If you are a madloom, if you have injustice, Allah Azza wa Jal will answer that. So this is the times that did not change. But you can simply say, "Oh Allah Azza wa Jal, I feel so hard. I feel so sad. I want to have a spouse. There's something you created in me. I have no hand into this. It's something in me. I want to have a spouse. Help me." As simple as that. You don't have to learn the specific words that said by Musa alayhi salatu wasalam. Because he simply says, "I'm poor." He's saying, "I'm weak. I'm poor. I don't have the ability. Help me to find a wife. Don't leave me alone. Don't let me be alone." That's what he's simply saying. So pray to Allah Azza wa Jal. If you want to learn the dua, yes, by all means, it's available. It's all there. There's all praises. There's Sayyidul Istighfar. There's the Tasbih. There's the Istighfar. The things that you will make the dua mustajab is to do sadaqat, to do tasbih, al-istighfar. Al-istighfar, only if you say astaghfirullah, 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 that in itself is actually unlock all the goodness. قلت استغفروا ربكم انه كان غفارا يرسل السماء عليكم مدرارا ويمدكم بابناء اموال وبنين ويجعل لكم جنات ويجعل لكم انهارا. This is in Surah Nuh. He was saying to his people, if you do istighfar to Allah Azza wa Jal, He will open heavens on you, pour rain. So that's rizq. And He will make rivers under you, and He will give you money, and He will forgive your sins, and He will give you sons, and He will give you all the abundances of blessings. But istighfar. And the istighfar, you're already saying, asking forgiveness, Allah Azza wa Jal, from the sins you're making. So that's tawbah. And that in itself comes with, inshallah, abundances. And dua, when you do dua, don't stop the dua. وَلَا تَقْنَطُوا مِنْ رَحْمَةِ اللَّهِ. When you do the dua, Allah Azza wa Jal says, I am أنا عند ظن عبدي بي فليظن بي ما شاء. I am what you think of me. So if you think I'm going to give you, I'm going to give you. If you think, well, you know what? I'm praying. I know you're not going to give me, but I'm going to pray anyway. It's like you play a game with Allah Azza wa Jal, subhanAllah. It's like you go and somebody says, listen, I know you're not going to give me, but I'm going to ask anyway. You don't do this with Allah Azza wa Jal. You ask Allah Azza wa Jal, and you ask knowing that He's going to give you. No matter how late it's going to be, knowing that He's going to give you. You pray to Allah Azza wa Jal, not just He's going to give you, but He can give you. You might think of a person that, or think of something that you think is not going to happen. You know what? One of the beautiful love stories or marriage stories that I've seen in the center, this girl, this sister, who's in Niqabi, so she's already have restrictions. She's not have similar restrictions of women who's showing her face, or maybe not. And she was working with the Islamic Center, and she was looking for a spouse. And she did not have any request apart from having somebody on Deen. And she was happy to marry someone who was younger than her. And we tried, and then we couldn't find anybody. I've tried, and I couldn't find anybody. Even got somebody who might think that they meet on good ground. And suddenly, subhanAllah, one of the brothers proposed to her. He's younger than her. He's active in the da'wah. He's an imam in the da'wah. He's studied Sharia, and he's a good-looking guy. She's over the moon with him. But waiting for him was difficult. And that's why I'm saying, one is sabr, you be patient, but the best way to patient is not to wait. Just go on with your life, pray to Allah Azza wa Jal, and knowing it will come. It will come.
Inshallah.
Don't feel like I'm waiting for that bus or that train and it's taking forever, and you keep looking at the watch, it's taking forever. Don't. Pray, go on with your life, and it's going to happen what's going to happen. Believe in Allah Azza wa Jal, and it will happen. And I've seen like the sister I've just told you about, that she got married a few years later. And by the way, the brother she got married to, one of the imams was trying to actually proposed him to her, and she declined. She said no, he lives too far, being 45 minutes away. And then they met online and they get married. And then the brother finally, the sheikh, the imam says, well, said, this is the brother I mentioned to you? He said, Nasib, subhanallah.
Mhm.
So do not get stuck on the waiting period. It will happen. Do not leave the dua. The dua itself, just simply ask Allah Azza wa Jal, but do it in the ways that, you know, do the sadaqat, istighfar, and the dua. And sadaqat, by the way, Salat al-Duha is sadaqat. 360 صدقة. التسبيح الصدقات. كل تسبيحة وكل تهليلة الله أكبر. So كل تسبيحة وكل تهليلة وكل حمد ونشاء الحمد لله. والله أكبر تكبير. So this is all صدقات. So this is, it's not just giving money away. إماتة الأذى عن الطريق صدقة. When you go walk down the street and there's a nail somewhere or some a glass or a plastic bag, you take it up and you put it in the bin. There's an apple, you pick it up and you put it in the bin because it might hurt somebody. So إماتة الأذى عن الطريق صدقة. Can you imagine that the sadaqah is actually in the street waiting for you to pick it up? The sadaqah is in the street. In the street. Pick it up. That's all it takes for you to do the sadaqah. Not giving charge, not to work hard and give money and set up direct debit. Pick it up off the street. So do the sadaqah, do istighfar, or do the dua, and inshallah, you will get what you want. And believe me, you would. You would. Believe in Allah Azza wa Jal. Do this recipe. It's been tested and proven 1,000 times. Do the dua, but make your life halal. What you want from Allah Azza wa Jal, you can never have it by haram. You can never have it by actually doing something haram. You can never have it by cheating. You can do it. You can't do it by like what the brothers of Yusuf says. Oh, you know, we'll make these mistakes and then we'll redeem ourselves later. No, have halal. And if you make a mistake, make redemption and keep going, inshallah.
Inshallah. Thank you.
You're most welcome. SubhanAllah, we got to 2 hours.
Yeah.
1 hour and 52. Well, thank you for persevering. Jazakumullah khair.
That was a great
It was a pleasure having you.
Jazakallah.
وإياكم إن شاء الله. Okay. سبحانك الله وبحمدك أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. جزاكم الله خير. I will make a dua. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إن كنا من الظالمين. اللهم يا واحد يا أحد يا فرد يا صمد يا من ليس له كفوا أحد. اللهم نسألك من كل خير سألك منه محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم ونعوذ بك من كل شر استعاذ منه محمد صلى الله وآله وسلم. اللهم صب علينا الخير صبا صبا ولا تجعل عيشنا كدا كدا يا رب العالمين. اللهم آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله العظيم لي ولكم وصلى الله على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.